guys, if you're new here, this is Wavy Hair Care, my YouTube channel, and I have a ton of wavy hair content on my blog, wavyhaircare.com. Today, I'm going to be talking about protein in hair products and how you can tell if a product has protein in it or not. It would be so much easier for those of us who are trying to maintain a protein and moisture balance in our wavy hair if companies would just tell us if the product has protein in it at all, or if it has a lot of protein or a little protein, but they don't do that. The reality is that the vast majority of consumers aren't familiar with things like protein and moisture hair balance, and they might not really necessarily know if their hair needs protein or not. So instead of telling us that kind of detail, companies try to give us like hints about the basics of what products would work for your hair type. With protein, what that often boils down to is they will market these products as being for damaged hair. And the reason for that is because the majority of people who need a lot of protein in their hair have very damaged hair. That usually means you have dyed your hair, but especially if you have bleached your hair. Bleaching or lightening your hair in any form is really damaging to your hair. It strips the natural proteins from your hair, and then it makes it more susceptible to other types of damage, like heat damage, damage from the sun, friction damage from like sleeping on like a fuzzy pillowcase, even just brushing your hair. All of the other types of damage are way more likely to do meaningful damage if your hair is dyed. I've read a book about hair chemistry, and over again it talks about chemical treatments, which is essentially dyeing your hair or using a perm kit or like a chemical straightening kit. Those types of damage just make up the vast majority of damage. And so you will see protein containing products being marketed for damaged hair, dyed hair, bleached hair, brittle hair, things like that. However, hair that has been damaged by chemical treatments or dyeing your hair is not the only type of hair that needs protein. Those of us who have fine hair strands also can benefit a lot from more protein. And you won't usually see that in the marketing just because most people, especially if they have straighter hair and are not trying to style their hair wavy, can over moisturize their hair and it won't matter. Having fine hair and getting enough protein in your hair really only matters if you're trying to embrace your natural waves or curls. And we're just not the majority of the market, frankly. As a general rule of thumb, you can guess if a product contains protein if it talks about strengthening your hair, rebuilding bonds, being for damaged hair, being for dyed hair, things like that. I thought I would show you a few examples that I just happen to have on hand. This is a shampoo, or actually it's a conditioner, that I like a lot. I use the shampoo and the conditioner from this line. This is the Not Your Mother's Natural Rice Water Himalayan Moringa conditioner, and right here it says Superior Strength, and down here it actually says adds protein to restore vibrancy and integrity. So all of those are basically just talking about, fortifying your hair, strengthening your hair, repairing it. All of those kinds of things are getting to the same concept, that it's for damaged or weak hair. And so that's true that this is it contains protein, so it is a decent option if you have bleached your hair or dyed your hair, but it also works great for me because I just have fine hair. Here is another one. This is a deep conditioner that contains protein, and strengthen and restore are kind of the two big words that would suggest protein to me on here. And then it also says nourish and renew. Renew is kind of another word suggesting strength or fixing damaged hair. Natural or chemically processed or heat styled hair. So again, those are just kind of all talking about damaged hair. So even though my hair isn't damaged, I like protein, so words like that are a good sign for me. Curlsmith kind of makes their products really easy to figure out because their purple products are all protein containing, whereas they have other lines that are like orange and like a blue or teal color, and those are like moisture and different things. But also there are some specific wording on these different products from their purple line. This foam says strength on it. What else does it say? And this is called a strength recipe. packed with superfoods to make your curls look strong. And then this is just a trial size, but it is the conditioner from the strengthening line. And this one says for weak or damaged hair. This one actually says is packed with superfoods for the perfect protein moisture balance. So the fact that it lists protein says something to you there. Those are just a few examples, but I'm sure you get the idea. Those are some rules of thumb for just looking at the marketing that is used on the front of packaging to help give you an educated guess on whether those products likely contain protein or not. So again, those words are things like strengthening, repairing, renewing, for bleached hair, for damaged hair, for weak hair, strengthening, fortifying, etc. Another way that you can get even closer to figuring out if a product has protein or not is by looking at the ingredients. Now, sometimes companies will choose to highlight some ingredients right on the front of their product, but if not, they'll be in the ingredients list. And a lot of times there are ingredients in the ingredients list that are not on the front of the bottle. So I would recommend looking at the actual ingredients list. In the ingredients list, things that you can look for are words that sound like foods or plants or edible things. So some common examples that you will see in hair products will be hydrolyzed versions of food or plant sounding things. So like hydrolyzed rice, hydrolyzed wheat, hydrolyzed soy, oat, yogurt, hemp is another one. Anything that sounds kind of edible, especially if it says hydrolyzed after it, is usually a protein. There are also a few just really common ingredients that are used to add protein to hair products that I essentially have tried to just memorize. The two that I do a good job with memorizing are keratin and collagen. Those are two very common proteins. Ones that I'm trying to remember, but I find a little bit trickier to remember for some reason, are amino acids and And last but not least, a really easy one is sometimes ingredients will actually say protein on them. So it will say something like hydrolyzed rice protein. And if it says protein right on the ingredients list, then that's a protein. Something to consider is that just because a product contains protein doesn't necessarily mean it contains a ton of protein or that it even has more protein than moisture. Most products that contain protein are balanced, according to my curl specialist hairstylist. She said that that's a really common misconception, is that people think if they go to the store and buy a deep conditioner or a mask that says it has protein in it, that that will help pull them out of moisture overload, and that most of the time they won't. But anyway, one way that you can try to estimate if the product has a lot of protein or just a little protein is by looking at where the protein ingredients are listed on the ingredients list. At least in the US, companies are required to list ingredients in the order that they show up in the product by volume. So the vast majority of hair products will say water or agua as the very first ingredient, and that's because when all the ingredients are measured by weight or volume, most of what makes up the product is usually water. So that's almost always listed first. But then following that like second, third ingredient, those will be what the rest of the product is primarily made out of. And so if a protein is listed as, say, like the third ingredient in one product, and on the other product it contains the same protein, but it's, 10 or 15 ingredients down, then the one that has protein as the third ingredient is going to be more of a stronger protein product than the other one. A website that I use to help me figure out protein in products is It Curly Girl. The exact website is isit.cg.com. And I started using this site when I was following the Curly Girl method, because you can copy and paste in an ingredients list into this website and then hit a button and it will tell you if this product is Curly Girl method approved or not. So I found that really helpful. But it also breaks down the ingredients by different categories. So if you put in an ingredients list that contains proteins, it will have a section that says proteins and then will list all of the ingredients that were on that ingredients list that were proteins. And if it doesn't list a protein category, then that just means that none of the ingredients listed were detected as being proteins. So that's what I use when I'm considering buying any new product to get a sense of which ingredients in the product are definitely proteins. Before finishing this video out, I also just wanted to go over a couple of things related to proteins that I wish I knew earlier in my wavy hair journey. First is that not all proteins are equal. I'll link a blog post to another blog. It is called the Sciencey Hair blog, and it's a wonderful resource for getting kind of nerdy with hair related products. And they have an article that goes over common proteins in hair products and gives you an idea of which ones are big, which ones are more moderate size, and which ones are small in terms of their molecular size. And the size of the proteins matters because only very small ingredients can actually get into our hair, especially if you have fine hair. And sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes it's not what we prefer. So generally speaking, if you have hair that is damaged, you want proteins that can actually get into your hair, because when we dye our hair or bleach our hair, proteins that should be in the center of our hair will be removed during that chemical reaction process. And so you want to replace the protein that was lost in the center of the hair if you have damaged hair. So smaller proteins are going to be your friend in that case. Where if you have fine hair that is not damaged, but you want protein to help strengthen the shape of your waves or curls like I do, then sometimes it can be a good thing to have proteins that stay on the outside, because it kind of creates a scaffolding type of effect for your hair strands, which can assist with your wave or curl pattern. And so in that case, having bigger molecular proteins in your hair products can be really beneficial. The other thing that I wish I knew a little bit earlier is that while making homemade hair masks with products you can get from the grocery store, for example, egg, avocado, coconut oil, things like that, are very common on Pinterest and in hair groups and just magazines everywhere. If you have hair masks that you enjoy doing and they make your hair feel good, then great. I'm definitely not here to tell you to not do that. I've done them before and thought that my hair felt good during, and so it was kind of just an enjoyable experience. However, I was really surprised when I switched to store-bought products that it did seem to make a more lasting impact on my hair, and I was kind of confused about why that was. And honestly, I'm a little bummed about that, because I am kind of frugal, and so I like being able to just use products that are really cheap to buy from the grocery store. But with this concept that comes from the Sciencey Hair blog, the protein size matters. The molecular size of the proteins in these products matter. And usually when protein from food products is added to hair products, there is a process that the companies put those items through that to hydrolyze them, to make them much, much smaller, and to allow them to get into our hair easier. And also, hair products are formulated so that they adhere to a certain way. I didn't know this until listening to a lecture online a couple of years ago. But even rinse-out conditioners, we call them rinse-out, they're actually formulated to leave tiny traces of conditioner behind to help your hair stay moisturized between washes. And if specific ingredients weren't added to our conditioners to allow that to happen, then they would be more fully rinsed out, and then they wouldn't benefit us the way that conditioners do benefit us. And so even with proteins that we want to stay on the exterior of our hair, so it might be okay that they don't penetrate our hair strand, they're not going to be left behind if we're not using them in a way that where they're formulated with other ingredients to help them bind to our hair between washes. So I would recommend, personally, it's probably best to stick with store-bought products that are specifically manufactured for the purpose and benefit of helping your hair. My hair loves protein, so protein is something that I'm always curious about. I'm always trying to learn more about different protein treatments, and I'm always kind of looking out for protein-containing products that are working well for other people. If you are a fellow protein lover, Let me know what works for you, and let's just chat protein in the comments. See you guys next time.